Hello everybody and welcome back to Broken Brand. And I didn't think of making a gaming video after I made the one yesterday, but here I am with some interesting news. Square Enix plans to aggressively pursue multi-platform game releases. Now, that sounds good, sounds interesting, but let's kind of break it down a bit. Square originally, before it merged with Enix, was the original creator of the Final Fantasy games that were put out to multiple platforms, but mostly had a nice deal with Nintendo. And I have my original Final Fantasy cartridge somewhere, and it's in one of two places. I was looking for it, couldn't find it before I made this video, but I played that, and I think I played 4 or 5, I forget which one, on Super Nintendo. But those are the only two Final Fantasy games I've actually ever played. Because around 92, 93, when the PlayStation started coming out, um, they got in a tiff with Nintendo. They wanted Nintendo to change how they were going to release their new console to discs, which were significantly cheaper than the expensive cartridges. And that kind of created a little rift between the developer and Nintendo. And basically, Nintendo said, fine, don't come back. And so, ever since then, all major releases for Final Fantasy have been exclusive to PlayStation to this date. Years later, some versions or some modified or redone versions of some of the Final Fantasy games have found their way to Nintendo on multiple platforms. There were some on the Wii, some on the DS, some on the, I want to say there was one on the GameCube. But so it's not like they didn't ever make Final Fantasy games for Nintendo ever again. They just didn't do it on release or give the full versions to Nintendo. Well, that's what this is talking about. Basically, what it is they're basically saying we're going to end our exclusive releases to PlayStation for Final Fantasy. If you read in between the lines, because a lot of their games go to multiple platforms now. They've got Final Fantasy 14 Online that's been going for a number of years now, and I've got a few friends that still play it. I mean, just like I have a few friends, unbelievably, still playing World of Warcraft. I mean, a lot of people love these games and love to play them, but it looks like now Square Enix is going to just stop making exclusives for PlayStation. And it comes down to what it looks like on their earnings call, is how this got released, is that, what was it? The fact that Final Fantasy 15 released both on PlayStation and Xbox. I guess we're on 16 now, I believe. That was kind of the one they did, that release that wasn't completely exclusive to PlayStation, but still their numbers for releases are just not living up to their expectations with Sony. So they've decided, fine, we're going to break this partnership. We're going to pursue releasing all our games across all our platforms. And while there's a few besides the online game that have found their way to Steam, it is a very, very small portion of the Final Fantasy catalog. A lot of the other games are, and that's great if you're a big Square Enix fan and you're a big Final Fantasy fan, and I'm on board with it. I do think that with what I talked about yesterday, we're going to see some weird moves, and this is something new that was released today after I just kind of summed up what happened last week. And this is kind of weird. Um, I never fully expected Final Fantasy to leave its sole exclusivity from PlayStation. It's been just, what, 20, gosh, nearly 30 years with Sony, and now they're changing it up because they just aren't getting the numbers, and it could be because that's what that's what PlayStation can do for Square Enix. So I don't know. And the fact that they're going to push more games to the Switch makes me happy. But the fact that they're also going to push more to Steam also makes me happy. Um, but I mean, this is kind of a weird thing I didn't see coming, and I'm on board with it. I do think we're going to see less and less exclusives from multiple developers are going to break these exclusive contracts. So basically, the only exclusive games we're going to have left, we're actually going to find on the Switch because Nintendo does not put its game anywhere else. They've got a few mobile games, Super Mario Run and Fire Emblem, and a couple others, but it's mobile games that you can purchase. And then if you want a console game made by Nintendo, you have to get it from Nintendo. You can't get it on Xbox, you can't get it on PlayStation, you can't get it on Steam, nowhere else. It's very exclusive to them. This puts Nintendo in a very strong position for becoming the most popular console this next year because there's lots of rumors about what's going to be for the new Switch, what it's going to be called, its specs. There's a lot of rumors and speculations. Although I did read in an article today that there is a speculation. They did confirm that it will connect to the uh, Nintendo login. Like if you have a Nintendo.com login, it'll connect to that, and you can. The assumption is your digital games will be able to transfer over to the new Switch. Still no confirmation that's backwards compatible. I think it'll be a mistake if it's not. They don't have a slot for your old Switch games because a lot of us put a lot of money in it, but that's fine by me. I'll keep it. I've got several consoles that I've kept over the years, and I'll keep it. So that's what we kind of got going on, and I do think Square Enix games coming to multiple platforms. I would love to play some of these new Final Fantasy games. I've seen them. I've seen some of my friends play them on their PlayStation, and I'm like, these are beautiful games. The stories are wonderful. I Final Fantasy has just been one of those things I remember as a kid, and to think of where it started on the NES and where it is now is just unbelievable. You're like, wow, this is what it is. This is crazy. This is cool. It's like seeing the evolution of Mario or Link over the years. You're like, wow, this is really cool. And it's just, this is one of the oldest franchises when it comes to gaming, right up there with Mario and Link and Sonic and several others. I mean, these were games that were just everyone played because they didn't release that many at a time like we do today. And so I'm all for Square Enix pushing Final Fantasy to multiple consoles. I'm not sure if I would get the newest Final Fantasy for my current Switch. I'd love to see the specs on the new one, see if I would do it that way. But as it sits now, if they did release it, I'd get it on Steam for sure. But not just because the graphics are so incredible. I don't want it to be like another Hogwarts Legacy experience where, every shift to a different area causes a loading screen, which was infuriating on the Switch port. But, I mean, I don't want that. So if it can prevent that, I might pick up a copy for the Switch or the new Switch whenever it comes out next year. But this is just one of those weird things, these kind of cool things that we see coming. The console wars are continuing, and the gaming landscape is changing a lot, and some of it for the good, some of it for the better. This is what I consider for the good. It's good for Square Enix and gamers that love Final Fantasy. It's bad for Sony because they're going to take a hit. There's no reason to go pick up a new PlayStation if I can get the games I want on the console I have or on the PC I have. So this is a bad thing for Sony, good thing for Square Enix. So I'll continue to keep you up to date and see what's going on. But I mean, I'm I'm excited about this. I'd love to play a new Final Fantasy game without forking out the money for a PlayStation 5. And I've considered it multiple times over the past year, just being like, I'm just going to take the hit and go buy one, despite the cost. And thankfully, I haven't. And me waiting may prove to be very beneficial for those that don't want to buy a brand new top tier console. So let me know your thoughts below. Do you think this is a good move? Do you think it's a bad move? Do you think Square Enix is just kind of getting in a tiff like they did with Nintendo back in the early 90s? Or is this something that was eventually going to happen no matter what? This just happens to coincide with a lot of different changes that we're seeing now. Let me know. And as always, my friends, and to all you new visitors, I always end with the same thing, and from the bottom of my heart, I mean it. I love you all, and there's nothing you can do about it.